Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and we are coming today with a full breakdown of everything that went down in that joint practice that was technically yesterday. I'm recording this at 2 a.m., so we're breaking down what happened Sunday, August 10th. By the time y'all are watching this, it is Monday, August 11th. So I just really want to emphasize that. But we have a lot of things to talk about, man. First of all, we have a lot of injury updates. We have some important running back updates, some wide receiver ones as well, a lot of secondary updates, a linebacker one too, and even some important special teams ones. But the injuries are like the biggest updates. But of course, we're going to dive into everything that went down in practice today, the good, the bad. We're going to go position group by position group, starting with quarterbacks all the way through the entire offense, all the way through the defense, and special teams as well. But before we get into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting every video, watching them all the way through, leaving likes. And like I said, man, I will be live streaming this upcoming Bengals preseason game August 18th. This time it should be some of the starters, maybe even guys like Jaden Daniels and Deebo Samuel will be out there for at least a little while, and I will be live reacting to all of that, play-by-play analysis, everything like we always do. And make sure you pull up to the Commanders Kings live show, man. We're running really close to running out of tickets, man. So make sure you go get your tickets to the live show August 24th in Virginia at Crystal City Sports Pub, man. It's going to be my first time meeting the other three in person, so that's going to be a really special moment. So just make sure y'all pull up for that, like the Commanders Kings live show in person. So pull up for that. Without further ado, let's go and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so before we dive into everything that happened in practice, first of all, you're going to notice in some of these clips that they are practicing in their burgundy uniforms. These clips that you're looking at were uploaded by 1067 The Fan, but shouts out to Rio Robinson, my dog over there. Y'all already know, man. Make sure you subscribe to him, follow him everywhere. He pointed out the fact that they are in burgundy because this is a home preseason opener. So we will be wearing burgundy during this preseason game against the Bengals, which is why that reflects onto how we dress in practice as well. And then also this next clip uploaded by John Duran, shouts out to him. He uploaded this clip of Joe Theismann meeting and signing with the service members for Commanders Military Appreciation Day. So shouts out to Joe Theismann. He does not have to be out there. He's doing that off of his own free will and going and signing things for military people. So that's hard, man. Shouts out to all of the service members, everything. I thought that was pretty cool and worth, making sure that was included in the clips. Now, of course, I'm going to have a couple of clips from what happened in practice as well, but I just wanted to show y'all those first. Now, let's dive into the injuries because I feel like these are probably, arguably, the most important updates of this entire video, man. I'm not gonna lie. First of all, as you can see in this clip uploaded by JP Finley, Luke McCaffrey is back at practice, and remember, he left Friday's game with an illness, but like I talked about 2 videos ago when I did like an injury report update from that game that went down Friday night, apparently Luke McCaffrey had an illness even before heading into that game. He tried to see if he could tough it out. He only played like a really low double-digit amount of snaps, like somewhere in the teens or something like that. And he was like, yeah, I just can't do it. Like, I'm just not able to keep it going. He wasn't feeling like himself. He wasn't able to be effective. So he decided, I'm pretty sure he and the coaches came to like a mutual decision. We're like, yeah, we'll just, you'll play again 10 days later, August 18th, during that Bengals preseason game. And then another update is that Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, of course, he left Friday's game as well, but he and Luke McCaffrey were both out there practicing, so that is great news. Shouts out to Nick Javala for providing that update right there. Bill and Luke McCaffrey, who both had to leave that game against the New England Patriots, that embarrassing game, they left the game early, both of them are good to go. So I already gave you the update on Ja'Cory. The fact that he said that he was good, he fell hard on his shoulder, but he should be good. You saw him out there practice, so he actually really is good. And then Luke McCaffrey, whatever illness he was dealing with, I guess is gone now just after a couple of days. And then we have some bad news too, though, because the Commanders offensive tackle Lucas Niang, who the team just signed last week, tore his ACL in that preseason game against the Patriots. And that, I feel like that was the worst part of all of it. The special teams is horrible, and a lot of our third and fourth stringers didn't look good at all either. But losing Lucas Niang was probably the biggest L from that whole preseason game, in my opinion, man. Because this is a guy, and I told y'all this when we first signed him, that this is a guy with some real talent. He started games for the Kansas City Chiefs during this Pat Mahomes era. But he just can't stay healthy, and that's why he's bounced from team to team, and he was even available for us to sign, during training camp. And then we brought him in, and when he was healthy, he was looking good. He immediately got into practice and started to make a name for himself, show flashes and things like that. So I wasn't surprised by that. It was just how long can he stay healthy? And sadly, the result is a torn ACL in just the first preseason game. And now you've lost him for probably the entire season. And it wasn't even like he was a guaranteed bet to make the roster anyway. But now we'll see. We'll revisit this next year, next training camp, and hopefully he can stay healthy then, because he is a talented tackle. There's no doubt about the talent. There was a reason he was starting for the Chiefs. Problem is, he just can't stay healthy, and that just happens to some people. It happens in every sport, man. We always have those guys that's very talented, but just can't stay healthy, and then they never get to realize their true potential, man. It really sucks. And then also, there was a whole big update, a whole slew of them from Nikki Javala. She pointed out the fact that this group of people were not at the Commanders practice at all. Like, they didn't show up, they didn't practice or nothing. You have Marcus Mariota, of course, dealing with some lower leg injury that Dan Quinn says is not that serious, but he didn't travel to New England for the joint practice nor the game. Same thing with Noah Brown. His situation, they're saying like they're ramping him up, because he had the injury during mandatory minicamp, and they don't want to, force him back into full game action and practicing every single practice every day and stuff like that until he's like 100%. And so I guess he's somewhere maybe in the 90s, and he's looked decent at times, but they kind of pull him from some practices. So he skipped the joint practice, skipped the preseason game, and then he's also skipped the next practice immediately after that. So I thought that was interesting. Brandon Coleman, same thing, did not travel to New England. He's dealing with some type of lower body injury. We still don't know what it is, but Dan Quinn said don't worry about it. Same thing with Jordan McGee. Now, Jordan McGee scares me because Brandon Coleman was hurt a lot last offseason, just like how he just ended up hurt now. But he was there for us, I believe, all season. I don't think he missed a game in the regular and postseason, right, at left tackle for us. And so it's a little different for him. He was hurt a lot during the offseason. We were worried going into the last year regular season during his rookie season, like, oh man, we might have drafted an injury-prone defensive lineman here. But he was hurt a lot during the offseason. We got to the regular season and postseason, he stayed 10 toes down. He was always available. Jordan McGee's different. He was hurt a lot last offseason. Then he barely played this past regular season, and I don't think he played at all in the postseason. And then now he's hurt again in the offseason, which really sucks because he's a huge part of our defense. Joe Witt Jr., our defensive coordinator, even admitted that we had entire plays and formations designed around this fifth-round rookie, and sadly, because he kept getting hurt, we kind of had to scramble around and adjust on the fly and things like that. Hopefully he gets back healthy. Dan Quinn said his injury isn't that bad either, but who knows whether he's telling the truth or not. Javonte Jean-Baptiste, 7th round edge rusher from the same class as Brandon Coleman, Jordan McGee, Dominique Hampton, Mike Sanderstill, Ben Sinnott, Luke McCaffrey, Jaden Daniels. We drafted a lot of guys in that draft, especially compared to this last one. We only got 5 guys, but Javonte Jean-Baptiste was the 7th rounder of that draft. Edge rusher to show flashes last year, but he also couldn't stay healthy. At least he played more games and snaps than Jordan McGee did last year, but he still was fairly injury prone. Now he's hurt again. Again, Dan Quinn said not to worry about it, but neither of those guys I've listed so far even traveled to New England. Then Kevon Seymour and Bobby Price got hurt during the Patriots game, and apparently they weren't out there at practice. And Viliami Fehoko, I'm guessing he got hurt in the Patriots preseason game because I didn't hear about him being hurt until after that preseason game, and apparently he was not at practice either at all. So all of those names, Marcus Mariota, Noah Brown, Brandon Coleman, Jordan McGee, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, Kevon Seymour, Viliami Fehoko, and Bobby Price, none of those names were at the Commanders practice Sunday, August 10th. Also, Kazmir Allen was wearing a black non-contact jersey, so at least he was there, but he just didn't practice. Well, whatever he did, he was not able to be made have contact. And then shouts out to Josh Taylor. He said in an article titled, "The Washington Commanders newcomer suffers season-ending injury in a preseason game versus the Patriots, leaving another addition to be made." So he brought up the point that was Lucas Niang out. He said, luckily, Adam Peters has built the roster with flexibility so Andrew Wiley or Trent Scott can fill in at multiple positions, including left tackle if it's ever needed. They still have a roster spot to fill, and a younger option is available. If they want to go that route, Jedrick Wills is still a free agent. I thought that was interesting. That's why I wanted to bring this up. And having them learn what Laremy TUNSIL, like Josh Connolly is right now, could go a long way in helping the 26-year-old veteran that still has a lot of potential and still in to tap into. Preseason injuries are the worst part of the offseason, and you hate to see someone with so much potential go down with an injury again, especially a guy like Lucas Niang. The roster has been built to withstand injuries to the depth of the offensive line especially, but it wouldn't surprise me if Peters adds someone like Wills with that spot open. So that's the reason I'm bringing that up. Shouts out to Josh Taylor of A to Z Sports. I think Jedrick Wills is an interesting option out there. He's a very talented guy that, hey man, still only 26 years old. There's probably still some ceiling, some rawness there that we could tap into and potentially get a steal out of free agency. And then also John Com let everybody know that Quinn provided no further injury updates, and he said that they'll have a better idea as of Tuesday about plans for various injured players. So that sounds like if we're not going to find out till Tuesday, maybe they don't practice Monday, August 11th. We'll see. If they do, of course, I'm going to have a full breakdown of everything that went down in practice, but it doesn't sound like they will. And also, Felix Tramiel pointed out the fact that the practice that went down Sunday, August 10th was a quick, intense practice. And also, even Laremy TUNSIL got hurt in 11-on-11s. It wasn't serious, but also he hadn't returned, at least up to the point that he saw. So now we got to worry about Laremy TUNSIL as well. Now moving on to the coaches. And just a few quotes from Dan Quinn before the practice that I felt like stood out. First of all, Dan Quinn said that the team watched the kickoff coverage film from Friday night and made it clear that it wasn't up to standard. So I mean, that was like the nicest way to put it. I'm pretty sure Dan Quinn tore into them boys in that film session because it was horrible, man. I mean, we had every penalty possible. We had like late hits. We had blocks in the back. We had like illegal formation on a kick one time or something like that. Like, how you get illegal formation on kickoffs? What have you been practicing this entire offseason? And then, of course, the very opening kickoff of the entire game, kick return for a touchdown by Travion Henderson. Then later on, we let Antonio Gibson do like a 55-yard return. He nearly took it to the house if he just had a little bit more speed to him. Like, I know Dan Quinn and Larry Izzo and those guys were highly upset because it'd be different if we didn't have certain expectations already behind this special teams unit, but we were one of the best special teams units in the entire NFL last year, like top 5, at worst top 10. And so for us to go out there and look like one of the worst of all time all of a sudden is insane, especially after we upgraded at kicker. We potentially upgraded at returner with Jalen Lane compared to anything I've seen probably in my lifetime of being a burgundy and gold fan. That's how high I am on Jalen Lane as a punt returner. And so it's just amazing that we go from that unit last year that was one of the best in the NFL. All we did was add talent. We didn't lose any significant talent. You re-signed Percy Butler to an extension. You brought back Nick Ballore, Tyler Owens, and Jeremy Reeves. They're still here. Like, those are your best special teamers. I don't know how we got worse, but it is what it is. Dan Quinn also said that he thinks that corner, safety, and running back are positions that are strong, and he feels good about them. So that's good to hear. We're pretty deep at those positions at least. And then Scott Abraham, he loved the quote from Dan Quinn in practice. He said, quote, "We can control our play style, and I'm certain that we will look different." Translation, a message has been sent to the entire team that Friday's performance won't be tolerated. If you want to see him say it himself and like the exact way that he conveyed that message, here's the 12-second clip right here.
It's really like a standard that we want, and when we nail it, I'll say it. And you may not be able to control the outcome or the reps, but we can control our play style, and I am certain that will look different.
Then moving on to the quarterbacks, and I only have Jaden Daniels updates today. We have a few clips while we're talking about him and some things that he did in practice. And then we also have some interesting quotes from him after practice. So Linnell Willingham pointed out the fact that Jaden Daniels had a touchdown throw to Debo on a 30-yarder where Debo found like a soft spot in between a corner and a safety. That chemistry between Jaden Daniels and Debo Samuel, I'm telling you, if we don't go to practice without some type of big play touchdown, at least like a 25-plus yarder every single practice. It's actually really crazy. I'm telling y'all right now, even after Terry McLaurin returns, Debo Samuel is a very, very potent fantasy option. I'm warning y'all right now. Don't say I did not give y'all the heads up when we get midway through the season and Debo Samuel's going crazy for somebody's fantasy team, but it's not yours. And then also Zach Selby pointed out the fact that the first pass of the day, Daniels in a 7-on-7 team drill to Debo Samuel touchdown. And then the second pass, another Debo Samuel touchdown. That is crazy. Because I've been hearing great things about our DB group. You're going to hear them when we get to the defensive part of this video as well. But it just seems like Jaden Daniels to Debo Samuel and Jaden Daniels to Zach Ertz is completely uncoverable no matter what's going on. And then also Rio Robinson brought up that great quote again. He said 5 + 1 = 6 every time. I love that quote. You know, Jaden Daniels wears number 5, Deebo Samuel wears number 1, and a touchdown is 6 points before the PAT. So I love that. Shouts out to Rio Robinson. Make sure y'all always give him credit for that every time you say it. And then also Zach Selby pointed out the fact that Jaden Daniels' connection with Deebo Samuel has grown by the day. He targeted Samuel on his first 2 passes during 7-on-7 drills, both resulting in touchdowns. And here's what Daniels had to say about Samuel after practice. He said, quote, "He looks good. He makes plays, contested catches. He's been making them all the camp. I'm excited to see as we continue to grow this thing. I'm excited to see what we do in the game setting." And again, like I already told y'all, we may even get to see it as soon as this upcoming preseason game against the Bengals, August 18th, which again, I will be live streaming and doing play-by-play. I'm going to even start live streaming an hour before the game. So the game starts at 8 p.m. I'm going to start live streaming at 7 so we can do our predictions, talk about whatever. Y'all can ask me questions and my opinions on things leading up to the game, all of that. And then, of course, we're just going to continue through the game. But going back to Jaden Daniels, he talked about playing in the preseason. He said, "I love playing football, but I don't make those decisions." So it's still pending whether or not he'll play in the Bengals game. But I know that some starters will play. Dan Quinn already made it clear, even before the joint practice against the Patriots, that a lot of these guys that play in this joint practice are not necessarily going to play in that preseason game. So starters played a lot in the joint practice, backups played a lot in the actual preseason game, and then also the reverse came with the preseason game against the Bengals. We don't have a joint practice with them, and he said that the starters will play a lot, at least some, in that preseason game against the Bengals. We just got to see whether that means Jaden Daniels or not. Maybe for a series or two, we'll see. Also, Jaden Daniels talked to receivers, and he said if he'll need time to ramp up with guys like Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown, because Terry holding out / ankle injury on the PUP list, but you know what $30 million a year could do to an ankle injury. You know what I'm saying? Can heal it right up. You know, that's the remedy. And then Noah Brown's still ramping up, so he hasn't been out there much. He said, quote, "I control what I control." I like that calm quote from him. That makes sense. And then also on Laremy Tunsil, he said, quote, "Love him to death," unquote. So we got to see what's going on with Laremy Tunsil's injury or whatever it may be. Again, Felix said that it seems like it wasn't that serious at all, and even the fact that nobody's talked about it, like not even like a John Com or anything like that. But we'll see next time we practice. Maybe Dan Quinn will address it, or if he doesn't, it sounds like it really just was absolutely nothing to the point that nobody's talking about it. And now moving on to the running backs. And shouts out to the running backs too, because Skylar Nelson brought up an interesting point. She did her takeaways from the whole practice. And her first takeaway was that Jaden Daniels and B-Rob had a connection that was solid. So whatever was going on in the passing game, maybe it was some RPO stuff, because as much as I love Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, I did hear that I think during the joint practice with the Patriots at some point, Jaden Daniels was running a read option with Ja'Cory, and then like he put it in his stomach, and then he kind of expected Ja'Cory to take it, but Ja'Cory expected Jaden to keep it, and then it ended up being a fumble off of the bad, handoff, because neither of those guys were on the same page. And sounds like Jaden Daniels and B-Rob are on the same page, but that makes sense because they played all last year together. So Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt still has some steps to take as far as like consistency things, nuance things, technical refinement, things like that, and chemistry with Jaden Daniels. But it looks like B-Rob, of course, after spending a year with Jaden Daniels, they're good to go. She also updated the fact that Tay Martin was getting some first team reps. Wow. I mean, he did look good in that preseason game. And so it's interesting to hear that he's getting first team reps. Hey, man, because, I mean, between him and Ja'Cory Brooks, they look like our best and most consistent receivers against the Patriots. So I'm not necessarily surprised, other than the fact that he's like a backup super depth, not really much of a chance of making the roster. And maybe this first team rep thing was like let's see if he can hang with the big dogs, and maybe he didn't necessarily have a good day. I haven't heard anybody say that he had a spectacular day while playing with the first team offense going against the first team defense. But I like the fact that they, at least based off of what he did in the preseason game, was like, okay, we'll reward you. Next practice, you're going to get a chance to play with the big dogs. And I like the fact that they gave him that chance. Again, I haven't heard whether he had a good or bad day, but I'm pretty sure he was happy to at least get the opportunity. She also said that Lattimore provided good coverage and broke up some passes. We're going to get there, because apparently Lattimore looks like the real deal from what we saw in practice today. Probably his best practice of all training camp. And then Skylar Nelson also pointed out the fact that Austin Eckler had a good day. So whatever he was doing, I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know the specifics, but apparently Austin Eckler had enough of a good day to where people felt like it was worth talking about. Even beyond what he normally does on an average day, apparently today was a better day than usual. So it sounds like he probably contributed in the passing game, probably had some good pass protection situations, all of that type of stuff. Maybe even ran the ball well as well. And then also, here's a crowd of people interviewing Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt on his preseason debut. This is uploaded by Ben Standig. It's 44 seconds. If you wanted to skip this, just go ahead and skip 44 seconds from now.
He's just bringing the team next week, so I got a lot to clean up right now.
Yeah, in what regard do you think you need to clean up specifics?
I'd say just making a lot more plays. I feel like I ain't making enough plays that hold myself to, so like that's something I want to work on.
When it came to the speed and physicality of playing your first NFL preseason game, did anything take you by surprise, or how do you think things went in that regard?
It was definitely physical. It's way different than college. Guys are bigger, stronger, and faster. So I mean, I think I put the work in and matched the intensity. I felt good. It was a little sore, but that's part of the game. But I feel good.
Now moving on to the wide receivers. And shouts out to Zach Selby. He pointed out the fact that the team was running 11-on-11 drills, and then there was some really nice blocks from both Austin Eckler, but also Jalen Lane to help Debo end up getting a big gain on like some type of play. Maybe it was like a handoff behind the line of scrimmage. I don't know if it was a screen, whatever. But either way, Austin Eckler, the vet, which you kind of expect him to do these things, but that's still a great job by him to be a part of that. But then also Jalen Lane had some great blocks, and that's really big because that was one of his biggest red flags, I guess you could say, or one of the question marks that he had, not only just coming out of the draft, but I remember like a few training camp practices ago, like a week or two ago, there was a situation where we tried to throw a screen to KJ Osborne, and then Mike Sainristil literally ran through Jalen Lane and broke up the screen, ruined the entire play, and everybody, of course, is looking at Jalen Lane like, dang, man, I know you just got here, I know you're a rookie, and that was like a really big welcome to the NFL moment for him. So I love the fact that he had the pride, the confidence, the determination to improve it that specifically. Because, you know, as a receiver, you're like, man, I'm the starting punt returner. I'm already making plays with Jaden Daniels against the starting team defense, making, you know, super contested catches in the back of the end zone. I'm getting open against our starting safety, Will Harris, consistently in practice and things like that. You know, I don't need to necessarily work on blocking, but that's not why they brought him here. That's the reason we traded away Jahan Dotson. He didn't want to block. Jalen Lane was like, okay, you got me that time. That's cool. I'm going to keep working at it. I'm going to get better, and I'm going to become a better blocker to where I can be not only an all-around wide receiver, but Cliff Kingsbury can depend on me to be on the field more often. Because if you can't block as a wide receiver, Cliff Kingsbury can't have you on the field most of the time. Because you don't want defenses to know, oh, Jalen Lane's on the field. There's no way that they're running the screen or running the ball because this guy can't block. So now that Jalen Lane is learning how to block, Cliff Kingsbury can have him on the field more often, because I don't like it when offenses, depending on the personnel you have on the field, completely projects to the defense, oh, we're doing this. Just like the situation with not having dual threat tight ends back in the days where we had Jeremy Sprinkle at tight end. When he was on the field, teams knew we were running the ball because there's no way we're throwing it to that guy. And then whenever we had Vernon Davis and Jordan Reed on the field, I mean, shouts out to them, but they knew that we were not, more than likely, not running the ball because those guys couldn't block. They were just receiving tight ends. And so same thing with Jalen Lane. Now that he's becoming an all-around wide receiver, him being on the field doesn't automatically tell the defense what our plans are, which is going to keep defenses on their toes, and that's how we're going to be able to attack them so efficiently. So I'm super excited. Jalen Lane, that's your ticket to getting on the field as early and often as possible. It's like same thing with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, man. Like, it's going to be really hard for Ja'Cory to step on the field very often unless he proves to this team that he can protect Jaden Daniels in situations like blitz pickup and stuff like that. I have to go back and look at the All-22 to see how he pass protected in that preseason game. He did everything else well. Running back, crazy potential. Receiving back, looked really good there. I mean, he made catching the ball look so easy and natural. And then after he caught it, he would turn around and make a guy miss immediately in like a phone booth situation. Like, the guy's insane. But can he pass protect? So same thing, Jalen Lane and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. I know, you know, y'all technically aren't blockers. You aren't offensive linemen, but blocking is a big part of what we do on this offense. Everybody has to be able to block for everything to go so smoothly and efficient. So thank goodness he's improving there. Shouts out to Linnell Willingham. He even said that it was a hell of a block from Jalen Lane on Debo Samuel. So it was a jet sweep. So an interesting play. Now we're starting to see some gadgety stuff from Debo Samuel as well. I feel like that's important because really, like, the first 8 practices about, Debo Samuel has been a pure, nuanced, technically refined receiver, which I never would have thought. You know what I'm saying? Him coming out of college, even from the 2021 great season, ridiculous season that he had with the 49ers, he was never like a technically refined receiver that could run routes, that was catching everything. Since he's come here, he's catching deep balls, ball tracking, contested catches. He has a release package off the line of scrimmage. His route running is better. Like, I don't know what's going on there. So then he mastered like the refinement areas of being a wide receiver, like a true wide receiver, not just a weapon. With the 49ers, he was a weapon. Now he's a pure wide receiver. And then now after he got all of that down pack, he's proven in that category. Him and Jaden Daniels have that much chemistry as far as him being a receiver. Now we can start to get into the Deebo Samuel gadgety stuff, which is his area of expertise. I'm telling you right now, he's potentially loading up to have his most at least efficient season of his career. I wouldn't say the best because he was just utilized so much in that 2021 season with the 49ers. We have so many mouths to feed. I'm not sure if he can do that again, but efficiency, and we're talking about like advanced stats like EPA per play and stuff like that, and like passer rating when targeted, stuff like that. Deebo Samuel is probably going to have the best year of his career this season. And then also, Linnell Willingham pointed out the fact that Jalen Lane had Quan Martin yoked up. And you know Quan is tough. This is a guy that played with 2 separated shoulders last year. And Jalen Lane went from getting ran over by tiny Mike Sainristil to yoking up Quan Martin. I'm telling y'all right now, man, this Jalen Lane kid just keeps ascending and getting better and better every single day. It's scary for opposing defenses out there. I'm telling y'all right now, Jalen Lane may not necessarily be a starter week 1, but he's going to ascend himself into a guy that you just can't take off of the field. I mean, just the speed alone. He's our fastest receiver outside of Terry. Terry and Jalen Lane right now, your only true deep threats, with De'Ami Brown gone now to with the Jaguars, I believe. But shouts out to Washington Commanders fan 93. He pointed out the fact that even with Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown, we have to bring another stable wide receiver in. Chris Moore, KJ Osborne, and Gallup should go play for the DC Defenders. They're not NFL caliber. I thought that was hilarious. So a lot of people are talking about maybe we should go bring in Amari Cooper. Then again, Amari Cooper was almost getting locked up at times against Benjamin St. Juste. So I don't know how much he still has left in the tank. There's a reason he's still a free agent right now. He's not the same guy that he was with the Raiders and back in Alabama before that, and even, for a short while with the Browns. So I don't know about that one. But Serge the Shooter, kind of like a talk you off the ledge point. He said, I'm happy to hear that Jaden and Deebo continue to build that strong connection. Ertz back in the swing of things, get Lane going. Everybody else will fall in. I'm ready for week 1. So depth is a concern, but at the end of the day, we should be fine because we got Jaden Daniels at quarterback, and he has chemistry with a lot of great weapons already. And Jalen Lane, again, is only getting better and better. And then shouts out to Skylar Nelson for uploading this clip while saying this. She said a quick look at wide receiver Ja'Cory Brooks from today's practice, which again went down Sunday, August 10th. A guy who played well in the preseason opener against the Patriots and led the team in receptions. He had a great day. He and Tay Martin were the best and most productive receivers in that game. Now, granted, they were going against like 3rd and 4th stringers, but they balled out. Now, moving on to the tight ends. This is just Chris Russell uploading a clip, and he said that 3 receivers release drill, and Zach Ertz was the first touchdown on a corner route. So I thought that was interesting just to kind of get a look at some of the drills that they run and how efficient Zach Ertz still is at even the little things. And remember, there's this report going around that apparently Zach Ertz is even better at running routes now than he even was last year or even in his prime with the Eagles. That is scary. That is really scary for opposing defenses. If Zach Ertz is going to be even better this year than he was last year, really watch out. Now that especially as Deebo Samuel to take some attention away, potentially Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt as an explosive back, Jalen Lane as well. When we get Torrey back, man, it's going to be ugly for opposing defenses, man. I can't wait to see what these guys even look like without Terry McLaurin against the Bengals. Now moving on to the offensive line. This is a clip uploaded by Bowie TV Sports. And then you have Zach Selby, who said Daniels has developed a strong relationship with center Tyler Biadasz. He won't give away everything about how they worked on the field together, but he did provide a glimpse of how deep their conversations can be. He said, quote, we have more of a thorough conversation even throughout the play, where it's like he asked me what I want to do and I asked him how he sees stuff, and we're kind of guiding each other off of different things. Just that growth from year 1 to year 2, hopefully we're going to continue to build on that, unquote. So it sounds like another way that our team is improving is the chemistry not only between Jaden Daniels and his receivers or his weapons, but even the center. So as far as like ID and potential blitzers, changing protections at the line of scrimmage and all of this type of stuff, what do you see from what the defense is showing me? Okay, and then we're going to change the offense, we're going to change the play to this, and we're going to be able to take advantage of what the defense is showing us and stuff like that. That's going to take this offense to a whole nother level. They were already doing that last year. Now going into a second year together, they're going to do it even more. And then moving on to the defensive side of the ball, even though I don't have anything for defensive line at all, nobody said anything about defensive line that I can find, but going straight to the linebackers, Chris Russell pointed out the fact that Frankie Louvu had a nice edge blitz rush that nearly forced an interception by Mike Sainristil on Jaden Daniels. So Frankie Louvu, hey man, he's starting to come off the edge. He's figured it out. Now, granted, it was a blitz. It wasn't like he was lined up on the line of scrimmage and the tackle knew he was coming pre-snap necessarily, but he's starting to do more damage from the outside. Typically, like all last year, even though he had 8.5 sacks, I'm pretty sure most of, if not all of them, were like up the A and B gaps. but now he's starting to do stuff off of the edge, and it almost led to a Mike Sanford interception on Jaden Daniels. But then Chris Russell also pointed out the fact that Sanford still had a pass interference call against him. From what I saw, the official right in front of me threw a flag, and it was at the play, but there was no call announced, so who knows. Now, speaking of cornerbacks, moving on to cornerback, Dula Vision pointed out the fact that Marshawn Lattimore had an amazing break on the ball, almost made a pick in 11-on-11 team drills. And then Linnell Willingham pointed out the fact that, he's getting plenty of work with the first team, talking about Jalen Lane, but Marshawn Lattimore had a good pass breakup that was intended for Jalen Lane from Jaden Daniels, which just goes to show that Jalen Lane is starting to get more and more starting reps to where he's receiving passes and targets from Jaden Daniels and is being covered by Marshawn Lattimore. That's how serious this is getting for Jalen Lane. But also, shouts out to Marshawn Lattimore for putting him back in his place. Like, yeah, you're balling. You're really talented. You're having great training camp practices, but not on me. You know what I'm saying? I love that from Marshawn Lattimore. Then shouts out to Zach Selby. He pointed out the fact that it was really nice work by Trenavian Amos to end practice. Daniels delivered a throw to Luke in the back of the end zone, the back corner of the end zone, but Amos was able to get there and bat it away. According to Zelby again, he said that practice ended on a good note for the defense. Trenavian Amos, who has continued to improve throughout training camp, he just keeps getting better and better, batted away a pass from Luke McCaffrey in the end zone, and he also pointed out the fact that Amos will face a tougher challenge against the Cincinnati Bengals with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but so far, the rookie has risen to the challenge. I love to hear that. And to dive even deeper into this play, Chris Russell pointed out that, man, just watching Trenavian Amos right in front of me at the red zone snap was a late switch by the defense, was playing with eyes and jumped the ball for what would have been an easy touchdown. So the defense was a little confused, and Trenavian Amos made up for it and made the defense right. It may not have necessarily been his fault while Luke McCaffrey was open, but the heads up play, the athleticism, the IQ, the awareness, the processing speed, the reaction speed to go make a play on the ball was just insane. And then the next play, apparently he had tight coverage on Luke McCaffrey for an incomplete in the back of the end zone that was being thrown by Jaden Daniels as well. And then he said again, opposite side versus McCaffrey on a corner route, another pass defended for Amos, third in a row. He had 3 plays in a row where he shut down everything moving. I'm telling you, Trey Amos, Marshawn Lattimore, easily the best cornerback group, including Mike Sanford still in the division, and I think they'll be top 5 in the entire NFL. We'll see. And then Chris Russell said that Marshawn Lattimore had a pass defended against Tay Martin late in practice. So again, to reiterate, that Tay Martin was out there with the starters. Almost had an interception by driving on the ball over the middle and earlier in practice as well. He said staying healthy is number 1 for number 2. Nothing else really matters because he'll be feisty and sticky in coverage as long as he's healthy. I completely agree. And then Dula gave his observations after practice. He said Lattimore balled today. Probably his best day of camp. Had multiple pass breakups. And I know there's a lot of attention on the wide receivers, but the connection between Jaden Daniels and Deebo Samuel continues to flourish. And Amos continues to show that he deserves that top cornerback spot. And then lastly, Zach Selby said Lattimore is starting to look like the version of himself that Washington hoped it would get when the team traded for him. That's music to my ears. That is absolute music to my ears. And then moving on to the safeties, the only thing that we heard, Zach Selby pointed out the fact that Dan Quinn at some point said that he really likes the safety group, and not just for what they can do on defense, but also because of their special teams contribution. So that has to be a shout out to guys like, especially Jeremy Reeves. Jeremy Reeves, and even Tyler Owens at times, he flashed in that preseason game, but Jeremy Reeves, especially as a safety that plays special teams very well, he went out there and balled against the Patriots in that preseason game. He looked like a man amongst boys. You know what I'm saying? And so he's definitely talking about him, but he's probably talking about Percy Butler. That's a safety that's more so better at special teams than he necessarily is at safety. Same thing with Tyler Owens. As of today, he's still a really good special teams player. I'm hoping he grows into a really good safety on the defensive side of the ball. But right now, if you're talking about who's the best safety special teams guy that we have that can play both right now, Jeremy Reeves is your leading candidate, but he's an all-pro for a reason, so there's no surprise there. Now moving on to special teams. Dan Quinn said that he has seen real confidence from Jalen Lane returning punts, and I love to hear that. It sucks that he didn't really get an opportunity to show it against the Patriots, because every time he was fielding the punt, there were like 2 guys in his face while he was catching the ball. So it was not really much he could do. I was impressed that even in one of them, as he's catching the ball, the guy's already basically tackling him. He still broke that tackle while still also not even bobbling the ball, not muffing it or nothing. That was highly impressive. So shouts out to him for that. And then also Dan Quinn said, when you're talking about a returner, oftentimes it's quiet feet the way that you're approaching the ball. With Tress Way, it's a difficult punt. He can angle it. It's lefty. Lefties is just weird and it's good, but I've seen him really respond, and we try to put him into the stress to do it, but he's off to a really good start and as a receiver as well. So unquote. So that's coming from Dan Quinn giving high praise of Jalen Lane and basically saying that we're putting him through it. Like, we're making things as difficult as possible for him as a punt returner, and he's still stepping up to the plate, and he's stepping up as a receiver as well. I'm telling you, he's going to be a still out of the 4th round. He was the best punt returner in the entire draft, and he's going to be a really good receiver for us. I'm telling y'all, watch out for Jalen Lane. Jump on the bandwagon early before it's too late. And then in the press conference before practice as well, Dan Quinn was asked, is it time to bring in kicker competition with Matt Gay with him being so inconsistent from distance? Dan Quinn said, quote, it's a totally fair question, but it's not where we're at, quote, at least yet, I guess. And Quinn also said that the team will have plenty of players in for a tryout, and he didn't specify the positions, but already did a whole video on that. My previous video that I just came out with a few hours ago broke down the trial players and the guy that we ended up signing for it, so go check that out if you haven't yet. But I thought that was interesting that they've thought about it. Like, yeah, after he missed that 49er, it was kind of like, okay, again, in that preseason game against the Patriots, like, maybe we do need to bring in some kicker competition. And I just naturally like having kicker competition no matter what. Even if Matt Gay did sign for the most guaranteed money on a 1-year deal in kicker NFL history, I still will bring in another kicker just to make sure that there's always somebody behind him, you know, force them to constantly improve and be at his best behavior and be on the top of his game. And then JP Finley also pointed out the fact that in practice, Matt Gay just went through live kicks. He went 4 or 5 with a surprising miss from 38. That's very concerning, but he did make a 50-plus yarder, but that's just crazy because he was Mr. Consistency last year. I believe it was with the Colts, right? Where he didn't miss a single kick anything less than 50 yards. So anything 49 yards or less, including PATs, he made every single one all last year. So why is he coming here and missing 38 yarders in practice, a 49 yarder, which was perfectly in his range that he never missed last year? He missed that in the preseason game against the Patriots. I don't know what's going on, but maybe he does need a little fire under his belly. You know, maybe we do need to bring in some kicker competition just to challenge him. Not a guy that would like actually have a real honest shot of making the team over him as our starting kicker, but at least somebody to kind of keep him in check, like to keep him competitive or something. Because he was literally the reason we signed him. The reason I was so excited about us signing him just a couple of months ago, I think it was like right before the draft or right after the draft. You know, it was right after the draft. The reason I was so excited because I was like, when in doubt, this guy doesn't miss from 49 or below. So all our offense has to do is get within that range every time. He's gonna make the kick. You can bet on it. Now he's suddenly become some guy that you have to worry about missing 38 yarders in practice. So I'm a little worried. He's making 50-plus yarders as well. But I thought if anything I can bet on with him, the one thing that can help me sleep at night, knowing that we had a kicker that didn't miss short kicks. Now suddenly he's inconsistent. Mr. Consistency is inconsistent. Chill out, man. And also, don't try to run after kick returners in actual games, man. Those guys are real athletes. I don't want you hurting yourself. I think that was like Joey Slider did that one time, or I think, wasn't it like the Giants last year when we played them? Their kicker tried to run after Austin Eckler. He got hurt for a long time and stuff. Do not do that, man. Just let him go. You're our only starting kicker option right now. We do not want to go through kicker musical chairs again. So Matt Gay, no longer running after returners. The special teams guys need to handle that. And if it gets to the point that you got to make a tackle and run down the guy, it's over with anyway, because you're more than likely not going to make it anyway. He almost hurt himself, and he didn't even get near Travion Henderson. So just chill out with that, man, for real. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in the video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting every video. I mean, if you made it this far in the video and you're still watching me and you can still hear me, man, salute to you. Really appreciate that. Make sure you leave a like on the way out. And of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in the video, especially as far as like the injuries are going. Like, is it time to hit the panic button on the injuries? Also, do you feel like we should bring in kicker competition for Matt Gay, just to at least, even if the guy doesn't have a real honest shot of making a roster, to at least keep him on his toes and to keep him at the top of his game? So let me know how y'all feel about everything discussed in this video. Really appreciate y'all. Leave a like on the way out. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.